Today's topic is all things heart health and fasting mimicking diets. We are joined by three incredible physicians who know everything that we need to know about heart health and fasting mimicking. And so without further ado, I am going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So first things first, Dr. Shu, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. I hope I'm not a stranger to many of you, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer here at Omnitra. I'm an endocrinologist by training, been in medicine for about 25 years, and for the first 20 years, actually, I spent time at Harvard's Joslin Diabetes Center, one of the world's preeminent diabetes center, was there teaching, doing research, and taking care of patients. About 5 years ago, I joined the company really seeing the tremendous research that we have here and the ability or the potential to disrupt healthcare. So I joined the company about 5 years ago. So good to be here tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Shu. Dr. Marbas, please jump in.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laurie Marbas. I'm a board-certified family and lifestyle medicine physician. So primary care is my background for a couple of decades, and been using the Prolon products for at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now with patients and having seen some wonderful, wonderful results. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Dr. Kahn.
I'm a Detroit-based practicing preventive cardiologist, reformed from a interventional cath lab cardiologist. I just am celebrating the beginning of my 48th year being totally plant-based, so I'm not in the protein deficiency ward yet. I love everything about cardiovascular disease prevention and tools that are out of the box, except this tool's in a box, and we're talking about the fasting mimicking diet.
Fantastic. Thank you all. And I hope if it wasn't clear before, it is abundantly clear now that we really have an incredible panel for you all today. We are going to spend about the first half or so digging into some of the questions that we received prior to the session. But as we go, please do share your questions in the Q&A below. So if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a Q&A option. There you can put all of your questions, and we will be answering them in the order received. So make sure to throw those in as soon as you can so we can answer them at the end of the session. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to tap into a few as we go as well. But without further ado, let's dig into some of the questions. And I'd like to kick it off with you, Dr. Marbas. If you could just touch on some of the markers that you use to assess heart health in your patients, in your practice.
Sure, absolutely. So some of these are going to be very familiar to you. So you have your annual exams. We typically do what we call a lipid panel. So that's going to be measuring some cholesterol numbers. So first of all would be like your LDL cholesterol, which is your low density lipoprotein, which is that bad cholesterol. And remember, high levels of LDL can lead to plaque buildup in arteries. So that increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. Then we have your HDL, which is the high density lipoprotein. That's your good cholesterol, right? So it helps transport cholesterol from the arteries back to the liver, where it can be processed and removed from the body. So again, that's your good and healthy cholesterol. So healthy is H. And then you have your triglycerides, right? So those are kind of the fat in your blood. They can also contribute to the hardening or thickening the arteries. So really you want to look at those. Those are the main markers there. And then of course, blood pressure, right? We have systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Those of course can really force a lot of pressure into the heart. And so that can also lead to chronic damage to the arteries and can lead to heart attack, stroke, and other issues. And then you have HSCRP. Typically, that's something that's just a marker of low inflammation that really focuses in on the cardiovascular system. So chronic inflammation and higher cholesterol, both of those are kind of working partners to develop, atherosclerosis. And so we really like to keep an eye on those. Those are the basic ones.
Awesome. And I mean, it sounds like already that's quite a handful, and those are really just the basic ones. So that really only scratches the surface. So there's probably a lot more too that can really give us a sense of what's going on for our cardiovascular health. Dr. Shu, Dr. Kahn, did you want to add anything to that?
I'll just say, I would guesstimate that a large portion of our audience may be female. Just typically women are smarter about health and men are probably watching football or eating French fries right now. Guys, you need to do this too, so pay attention. The reason I give that intro, there just was a major presentation. I saw it 100 times on the web, that if you measure 3 lab tests, you can predict the 30-year cardiac survival of a woman who appears to be healthy. And 30-year survival data is very unusual. And it was your LDL cholesterol, your high sensitivity C-reactive protein, and my favorite cholesterol particle, which is called lipoprotein little a genetic cholesterol. So if you will ask your primary care doc, I know you're doing your routine labs and I know you're going to do my LDL cholesterol, but be sure, Dr. Marbas mentioned it, you're getting my high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And be sure, maybe for the first time in my life, you're ordering my lipoprotein little a. It's an awkward word, but it is a scientific word. And those 3 tests are powerful. Now, I would add 15 others, and maybe we'll get to that. But, since it's in the New England Journal of Medicine this week, make sure you get the big 3.
Fantastic. I think that is really important when we are looking at how all of the interventions that we do, how are they going to impact our heart health? We need to know what to assess and to see what's improving over time. So why don't we jump over to Dr. Shu, who can share a little bit about how fasting mimicking diets can actually impact some of these markers that we just went over.
Yeah, and I think I like to pull back a little bit and just responding to or corresponding to what had been said. There was a number that really hit me very, very hard, and I'm sure Dr. Marbas and Dr. Kahn probably would have the same reaction. When you look at the representative U.S. population, you look at how many people, what percentage of the population are cardiovascularly healthy or cardiometabolically healthy. I don't know. I wanted to throw out to the listeners or the audience here. What numbers would you think that numbers to be? Now, it turns out that when you look at body weight, when you look at glucose level, when you look at lipid level, when you look at blood pressure, and you look at history of cardiovascular diseases, only 6.8% of all Americans are cardiometabolically healthy. Joe, do you believe that number?
Yeah, I do. And, I don't want to get political, although we're doing this 2 hours before a pretty important national debate. But we have that, enigmatic figure, Robert Kennedy Jr., who shifted political alliances. Let's not talk about that. But he also gave a national lecture for 30 minutes about cardiometabolic health. And I think millions of people who hadn't heard that term were introduced to that term. And I say, without any vote casted for any of the players, yes, it should be a national discussion. Why 6.8% of Americans, when you measure their waistline and their HDL and their triglycerides and their blood pressure and their C-reactive protein inflammation test, even at a minimum, why we fail, and why we are the most fiber deficient culture, in the history of the world. We don't know what fiber is anymore. So I do agree with those numbers.
Yeah. So our current solution is you give 1 or 2 medications for each of the criteria that I mentioned, for your weight, right, for your cholesterol, for your blood pressure, for your diabetes or elevated glucose, that we become a drug-crazed country. The fasting mimicking diet as a technology tackles it from altogether very different starting point. That is, there's something that when you do from the upstream, it should affect every cell in the body, right? These are what's called the innovation in lifestyle medicine. When we think about it, like, for example, I'm sure both doctors here would agree with me. Exercise is probably one of the best medicine out there, right? But how is it one intervention that affects your blood pressure, your cholesterol? How does it affect your glucose level? It increases your lung capacity. It strengthens your heart. It builds your bones and you build your muscle. How is it one intervention could do that, right? Because that is fundamental. That's upstream, right? It's not like medications where you take many of them. We've just uncovered, right, over the last 10 years with fasting mimicking diet, the secret of how periodic fasting can uncover these very upstream changes when you apply to the entire body can have multiple effects. The fasting mimicking diet, diet is really a bad name. It's really not a diet. It's really a nutrition intervention. Given 5 days per month for multiple cycles can yield multiple effects on the body, right? It can help lose visceral fat. can help maintain muscle mass, could help sustain healthy blood pressure, could normalizes a lot of the lipid distribution in the body, could also, we have now trials to show diabetes remission through this, all through this fasting mimicking diet technology. I'm sure we'll talk more about it today, but it did not come out of a garage somewhere. It was studied over 25 years at the University of Southern California at the longevity lab, Professor Walter Longo's lab, and funded by the NIH, lots of credibility. But it's one of another really innovative interventions in lifestyle medicine, just like exercise, just like sleep, how when we mimic fasting for a couple of days could bring you many of the benefits of a prolonged fasting while relieving you of the burdens associated with long-term fasting.
Wow.
And so can you go into a little bit more detail on specifically what the fasting mimicking diet has shown in these trials, specifically as it relates to heart health metrics like cholesterol, blood pressure, or even Joanne asks about lipo, little a, what have we seen here?
Yeah, we have now started just our 40th clinical trials, and we have now over 30 publications in our clinical trials. And the areas really ranges from, for example, multiple cycles, just even as little as 3 cycles of FMD. FMD stands for fasting mimicking diet. I'm shortening it a little bit. That shows that people who are on 3 cycles of FMD, 5 days per month for 3 months, is able to reduce their visceral fat while maintaining muscle mass. To me, that's one of the hallmark of an intervention like this. Now, you've probably heard a lot of popular drugs out there, the GLP-1 receptor agonists, right? That can drive weight loss, but the problem is you also lose a lot of muscle mass. Okay, up to 30 to 40% of the weight loss from the GLP-1s are from muscle loss. The FND driven, it's a fat driven kind of approach. It's totally different. You lose the fat you don't want, but you maintain the muscle that you need. So that's one. For example, another study we show 4 cycles of FMD, a fasting mimicking diet, has many of the same benefits as a 120 days worth of Mediterranean diet every single day. And on endothelial function, for example, on metabolic markers, on cardiometabolic markers. And just think about like who's got 120 days every day being the same. I mean, this is my struggle as an endocrinologist. Everybody wants to do well, but it's difficult to stick to a regimen. And this is why this idea of an intervention, nutrition intervention, 5 days per month, simply for 4 months, has that benefit as 120 days worth of Mediterranean diet. That's study number 2. Quickly, study number 3. For people with type 2 diabetes, I'm sure some of our listeners probably have family members and loved ones with type 2 diabetes. 6 cycles of fasting mimicking diet. 6 cycles. That sounds like a long time, over 6 months, but that's 5 times 6. There's 30 days of intervention. We saw 1.4 A1C drop. We saw 22-pound weight loss while maintaining muscle mass. We saw a 59% drop in insulin resistance. And the most important thing, I mean, those are all numbers. Most important thing is in the study, we show that 2/3 of you, 2/3 of the people with type 2 diabetes on multiple drugs were able to reduce their medicine while achieving all those markers. So I think that this is worth something to, this is worth your time to explore a little bit. But I have so many other studies, but we'll take step by step.
I think that's great. And when we had an anonymous attendee ask, specifically for those looking to make these changes, specifically for heart health, you mentioned a couple different protocols, 6 cycles, 4 cycles, 3 cycles. What would your recommendation be for individuals in terms of the number of FMDs that they would need to make an impact for their heart health?
It's almost asking like, what is the right exercise for you? It needs to be individualized. And this is why talking to your doctor, talking to the panelists over here, when you see your doctor, right? But we also at El Nitro, knowing that personalization is key, we also put together a program together, right? With, centered around this fasting mimicking diet, but overlay it with dietitians, overlay it with lifestyle physicians that can be part of the program to help you, to give you the personalized approach that you need. And we call it El Nitro Health. We'll talk more about that. But But certainly, depending on your needs, sometimes, for example, if you're in the pre-diabetes or you want to drive cardiometabolic health, we generally call for a 6-month program at Alnitra Health. But if you have type 2 diabetes, you really wanted to reduce medications, we would do a 12 months diabetes remission and regression program. All these programs are tailored for you, and we have a protocol that's university tested, but I think personalization is key.
Fantastic. Well, I think it makes plenty of sense for us to jump over to Dr. Kahn and Dr. Marbas to share some real life clinical case studies that they've seen using fasting mimicking diets in their practice. So I'll start with you, Dr. Kahn, if you'd like to share an example of a patient who saw improvements in heart health markers with fasting mimicking.
Yeah, I actually think the most impactful ones I've seen so far, and I hate to go down a rabbit trail, but I have a number of people in the Alnitra diabetic remission trial. And the thing about that trial is they're doing a 5-day fasting mimicking diet once a month for perpetuity that they stay in the trial. And it's more of a clinical trial. It's already been shown in a couple publications to be effective. So they're getting all this support. It's a wonderful program if anybody's listening. And and you're a type 2 diabetic, you should find out about it. Is a slightly modified fasting mimicking diet box specific for a type 2 diabetic. I've never tried it because I'm not a type 2 diabetic, but it's essentially almost interchangeable. And these people are doing it monthly. I mean, they're having psychological benefits. They're learning about portion size. They're learning to deal with their hunger. They're learning to realize that they're empowered, that, it isn't just a doctor and a prescription. It's what you do for the 95% of the time you're not in your doctor's office. And you can do something very impactful at home that could actually get you down or off medicines and improve your labs. So the number of people I've seen with significant weight loss, significant lowering of hemoglobin A1C. Now, the rest of their cardiovascular profile is going to improve if they're losing weight, if they're gaining confidence, if their diabetic pork control is improving. Their triglycerides are coming down, their inflammation's coming down, their LDL cholesterol is coming down. Any marker you do is going to follow with it. We don't have yet actual coronary artery data, but you would certainly hope that if you ever actually did that kind of study, there's so much improvement. And, I kind of call them, I have my Prolon junkies. And there's a lot of, addictive habits in life. If you want to get addicted to Prolon 5 days, that's a pretty good habit. And I'm not talking to doing it 5 days back to back to back. I've had a few crazies in my clinic that have actually done that without my permission. I'm talking, if you want to do it once a month and you can fit it in your budget and your lifestyle, it's not going to hurt you. Of course, most of us, I do it about 3 times a year after doing it for the initial 3 months in a row back in 2017. But it's my go-to. I mean, if you're sitting in my office talking to me, you're seeing a stack of Prolon brochures. And when you go to check out, you're seeing a stack of Prolon boxes, as well as the L-protein and the fasting shake and the fasting bar. I mean, we're surrounded with messages for the patients that are being seen live because it's such an effective tool. And yeah, I use the drugs you hear about, the Hollywood drugs, the Wegovy's and the Mounjaros, but I don't want people to try them until they've tried, Prolon a number of times, or actually ideally do it together, because then you might get a tool that lets you get off of the prescription drugs and still have self-control and still have weight control and still have metabolic health control.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned it's not only those metrics that we're measuring in the office, but also those psychological and emotional relationships with food that are also evolving with this program, which you also mentioned, which is huge. Dr. Marbas, would you like to share an example as well?
Yeah, and I think I'd like to highlight what Dr. Kahn said, because I don't want to ever say that this is the smallest thing. It's like, for me, it's the biggest thing really is the mental component, right? This mindset, that one, that they can have confidence that they absolutely can do an intervention at home. It builds, like, at first they're like 5 days and what am I doing? I'm like, you can do it. Because I see patients across the country. I'm licensed in all 50 states. So I'm doing virtual care. And so this is a different conversation. I don't get to put up, any type of ads or anything, posters saying, hey, this is what you can do. This is a conversation, and I get to know these folks. I see them in their home. I understand their habits. Most of my patients are women. Perimenopause, menopause, again, there's another shift in weight changes. So we're at higher risk for metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease. So these are my people, it's my tribe. And so we speak this language, but they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know, but they absolutely can. And that's really beautiful, is to see them come back, one, with the success of some weight loss, which was, they were like, I thought it was hiding under a rock and I couldn't find it, but there it is. I lost weight, but they do see blood pressure improvement, their blood sugars improve. But again, this mindset, right? Their inflammation improves, joint pain improves. And I think they're just so surprised, and it's a great starting point, right? So maybe they've really struggled and they've tried all these yo-yo diets and different things. It's a really healthy way to approach this and saying, look at this data behind it. I've seen other patients do very well. And it's only been a success when people engage with it. They're just beyond tickled, and they just can't believe that they've done it. And many times they'll have another box. They're just kind of waiting in their calendars, like, where can I do this 5 days and feel really good about it, without traveling and stuff. So there's a bit of, I think, planning involved. And but for the most part, patients have been very, very excited, and it's been a real joy. I actually really look forward to the follow-up appointments, because I know they're going to go well. And so, yeah, those are the ones I do enjoy.
Mm.
Dr. Shu, do you want to add anything there from these stories and these case studies?
We have now seen so many people who have benefited from this this technology. I would say that the body has the ability to heal itself. It really does. I mean, when you get a cut on the skin, what do you put on? You put a Band-Aid. You just let the body heal. Okay. Fasting has been shown, especially these prolonged fasting has been shown to really trigger a host of changes all the way from the depth of the cells to every organ system in the body. And when you do this with the fasting mimicking diet, you're not taking something that's magical, that has like extraterrestrial, and what you're doing is you're activating your own body's ability to rejuvenate. Okay, allow these mechanisms, cellular rejuvenation mechanism, that's really been embedded in, from all the way from yeast to fruit flies to rodents to mammals, that's been passed through every species. That survival instinct, when the environment is in a starvation state, the body has the ability to use that, turn that disadvantage into an advantage. We call cellular autophagy. And through that, you're activating one of the most powerful repair system in the body that gets applied to every cells in the body. So this is where, like, there's going to be a role for all the powerful medications. And I'm a physician, so I prescribe medications for sure, right? But are these medications that controls every biomarkers that we mentioned? When you take, I mean, very quickly, you'll see you're on 5, 6, 7, 8 different medications. When your body has the ability to heal from within, what FMD really is doing is giving you that ability, is awaken that potential in your body. And it's plant-based, it's natural, and especially in the context of a nourished fast like FMD, more than 1 million cases, or 1 million product has been utilized by individuals around the globe. And now with the Nutra Health program for disease remission, you have professionals that's hand-holding you, that's personalizing the care. I just can't think of a more innovative ways to address metabolic health or cardiometabolic health.
That's fantastic. And so you you mentioned, and also Dr. Kahn and Dr. Marbas, everybody's really talked about how this kind of compares and how you pair it or use it with medications that you are prescribing. But how might this fasting mimicking diet compare to diet or other diet choices that might be available to somebody looking to make some health changes specifically for heart health? And I'll pass that back to you, Dr. Shu.
You
Yeah.
know, Joe, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
I didn't quite hear who was jumping in, and since you're much older than me, go right ahead.
Well, I hope biologically I'm not older than you.
I don't think chronologically you are either, but anyway.
Um, it's what was the question, Renee? No, we lost
How
the
does this
question.
compare to other diets, other programs?
Yeah, every diet is a commitment of lifestyle, right? And we know you need to do that. I mean, it's a good thing. Right? Every American knows that we should not smoke, we should exercise, we should sleep enough, and then we should eat well. So how do we get to 93% being cardiometabolic and healthy? How do we get there? When there is so much knowledge, everybody knows, but we can't do it. That's the problem. The challenge is that it's difficult to live a perfect, to eat like a saint. And this is why I think the genius behind the fasting mimicking diet is not that it takes away the need to eat well and to follow good lifestyle, is in spite of your own failure, in spite of your own challenge, difficulty to adhere to a good diet, there is a way, there is an intervention when you give yourself 5 days of that effort. Now, is it going to be easy effort? It's not going to be easy effort. It's not a 3-star Michelin gourmet. Okay, I'll be honest with you. It's also not where you eat until you're full, right? It is fasting mimicking. It is an intervention. It awakens your body's ability to rejuvenate, and it's 5 days. Now, in clinical practice, I always say, you tell the patient to go home and exercise and eat well. There, everybody says, "Sure, doctor, I'll do it." But next time when they come back, when you ask, like their motivation decreases, like as the days passes. But when you ask them, do you have 5 days where you can give for your health? 5 days per month. Not going to be the easiest, but when you do it, you will see results. Many people say, "Sign me up, doctor," right? So this is where it's different than ordinary everyday diet. We've now seen this in animal models. We now have seen in clinical trials, just 5 days per month. And Dr. Joseph Antoun, who is supposed to be here tonight, because he has a personal issue that he couldn't make it, he always talks about how this is almost like a studying for your college exams. I don't know. I don't know about you, whether you can relate to that. In your college days, I don't know, did you study every day? I didn't. Maybe Dr. Marbas did. Maybe
No.
Dr. Kahn did, to make it through medical schools. But I mean, we all understand every day we need to study, but I didn't. What I did was 5 days before midterms, 5 days before finals, I crammed. I stayed up. I did everything. I passed. I made it through med school. Now, sure, should we have been studying every single day? Of course. But in spite of that, if you're able to get in the 5 day of this fasting mimicking diet, this nutrition intervention, you could get to where you want to be. And that is the biggest difference from a diet.
So Dr. Kahn, did Dr. Shu steal the words out of your mouth, or did you want to add anything there?
No, he did it as one would expect, an amazing job. He knows this program so well. I try and, again, we all have time, and Dr. Marbas takes a little more time with her patients than average. I take a little more time. There's still so much to talk about. But, many people are fasting pros. People have been to North Water Fasting Center. It's 2% of people, 1% of people, or whatever. I don't think most people, probably most that are logged on right now listening or will watch the replay, but most people that walk in my office do not understand that fasting can be a gift to your health, that it can unlock you eat 3 meals a day of a healthy Mediterranean diet, and you eat 3 meals a day of a healthy plant-based diet, and God forbid you eat 3 meals a day of a paleo diet or something, at least a clean option. You're still not unlocking the door of the body's innate ability to repair. And we live in a society where we never need to miss a meal ever, or we can eat 5 a day if we want. And I think there is that educational process. You know, I have a book in my waiting room, The Oldest Cure in the World, I think is the title, a book about fasting. Wonderful book. It has several chapters about Dr. Longo and the Fasting Mimicking Diet Research Program. But, you know, I think it's so imperative to teach people, you know, even if you're skipping breakfast, you've not unlocked these secrets that the body has to repair, regenerate, rejuvenate, induce autophagy. And, you know, 25 years later, Dr. Longo and his team have taught us how we can unlock these secret mechanisms to feeling better, looking better, better skin. We know we can do that now. We have research on that. You know, and maybe really, and we know we can drop our biologic age, at least on average. So I think it's so imperative to go back to the basics that, you know, shut your mouth is a very effective therapy, but to do it with nothing is tougher than most of us. I'm not volunteering for a 5-day water fast. I've never done one. I've done a 1-day, you know, religious fast, and I don't like it, but I do it. But you know, that this is just a whole nother layer of just, we got it inside of us. We just don't know we have it. And you know, it's some feature in your car you never knew about, you know, for a year. And oh my
That's a good
God,
point.
did that make
Yeah.
it easier to back up or navigate or, you know, link to Bluetooth or something? You know, we're hyper wired to do this. Just do it.
Absolutely. Dr. Marbas, anything to touch on with that subject there?
No, I think they covered it well, and yeah, it's all amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Dr. Kahn's phrases. So I test don't guess is one I use all the time. So there's another one there where we're pre-wired for. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll say too that one other thing that's worth mentioning when comparing fasting mimicking to really a lot of other diets out there is the muscle protection piece, which is really hard to come by when it comes to diet intervention, especially when we're choosing methods that we're aiming to get weight loss. That often means pretty significant calorie restriction. And that oftentimes is also paired with muscle loss. And we've seen consistently time and time again, even in our comparative analysis of fasting mimicking diets to Mediterranean diets, that muscle is protected even with this weight loss. So Dr. Shu, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. You know, in that study that you mentioned against the Mediterranean diet, there was about 9 to 10 pounds of weight loss on the Mediterranean diet group. They lost 3 pounds of muscle out of the 10 pounds they lost. Think about it. I mean, that's a third, right? I mean, you see that with bariatric surgery, you see that with GLP-1, you see that with low-calorie diet. You might say, oh, 3 pounds. Go to the supermarket and buy a 3-pound steak. It's actually heavy. It's actually a lot of meat. And to gain that 3 pounds from gym working out, I mean, you gotta be there for a couple of weeks to gain that 3 pounds back. I mean, it's really not you know, it should not be lost on us that these are precious muscles. And think about when you lose that muscle, now when you stop your intervention, when you stop that weight loss, what happens? It may be by drug or by diet. Now weight goes back up. You don't gain those muscle back. You gain fats back, right? You gain the fat back. Now your body composition becomes even worse now because now you lost the muscle. Now you gain fat. This is the story of our listeners, right? They struggle with this every time they go through this yo-yoing. The body composition becomes worse. Now, fasting with fasting mimic diet is different because when you fast, it's a stress to the body, right? It's a unique kind of stress. I mean, we always think the stress is bad, but not all stresses are bad. Think about it. Like exercise is actually a stress. Without the stress, the muscle won't get torn apart, and muscle won't grow, right? So same thing with fasting. When you fast, it's a unique type of stress to the body. And what it does is that it stimulates counter-regulatory hormones like growth hormones. And growth hormones is going to maintain that muscle mass. Very different than a low-calorie diet that's going to gradually chip away, because the body needs to break down muscle in order to make glucose. We call that gluconeogenesis. But in the fasting state, it's very different. And also because the FMD is specially formulated with enough complex carbohydrates in there There's also a specialized L drink in there. All of these things are designed to protect the muscle mass at any cost. And this is why this is so important.
Fantastic. I'm going to actually pull a question from the Q&A here. Zamani asks, will the FMD protect someone who is still consuming the standard Western diet? Which I think is a really interesting question, especially as we compare this to other diets.
Yeah.
Dr. Shu, would you like to touch on that?
Well, I mean, we saw that in the clinical trials, right? In every clinical trials, we did not have dietitians. We did not tell them what to do for the rest of 25 days. We actually just gave them the FMD compared to a standard care or control group. So we know that even the 5 days alone probably can offset many of the the bad behavior. I'm not advocating, I'm the first to admit I'm not advocating people just eat everything for the rest of 25 days. But there's something, as Dr. Kahn was saying, that changes in your brain, right? On your mind. Because in 5 days, you lose that fat, you maintain the muscle, you feel stronger. You're not going to sabotage that because it changes relationship to food. You feel more confident, you feel a sense of achievement. So many people are not going to trash all the gains that they have obtained in the 5 days. In fact, we have a study that showed that after 12 cycles, people actually increase their physical activities by 4 hours per week. Why? Because now they feel this sense of achievement. They say, "Oh my goodness, just 5 days I can achieve this." Now they check off their nutrition boxes. I'm done on the nutrition part because this 5 day could drive a lot of weight loss, could drive a lot of good stuff. But now they're activated, they're energized, their knowledge is increased. Now they put all that effort onto physical activities. Think about this, right? This is amazing, right? When is the first time that as doctors you tell somebody to be on this nutrition intervention? Boom. On the other side, you see an increasing physical activities. This is every doctor's dream, right? And this is really the unique feature of this.
Fantastic. Yeah, that study was really incredible to see the change in a place that we weren't necessarily expecting to see it. So I'm going to jump over back to Dr. Marbas and talk a little bit about kind of decision making in terms of who this might be right for. So when you are deciding, you're looking at your patients who might have some heart health concerns, what are you looking for? Who is the right candidate for this? And maybe who isn't the right candidate for this?
Sure. I think, obviously the ones that we've been talking about, those with, high cardiovascular risk. So, they have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high levels of inflammation. Those absolutely would. Maybe metabolic syndrome, when you have obesity, again, high blood pressure, insulin resistance. They either have type 2 diabetes, prediabetes. They certainly are showing indications of that insulin resistance. The earlier I can get them, the better. In addition, I think, again, older individuals who maybe struggle, who I really sometimes have, they're like the hardest to move in that direction, but sometimes they can absolutely get them to do this for 5 days, of course, under, supervision. I think the ones that you have to be careful with, if you had patients on insulin or certain oral hypoglycemics, we watch them very carefully. It doesn't mean that they can't, but I take proactive measures with their medications. So we'll cut medications in half or even stop insulin, depending on how much they're using, what are their numbers, and make sure they have a CGM, so there are some things that you really want to be careful of. And those with, high blood pressure medications, I would say those are the two classes of medications that need to be closely monitored. And of course, pregnant or nursing women, anybody with eating disorders, those are the ones that I tend to obviously would be concerned about someone doing something like this. But I would be curious because I've had more patients with this, but like those with, I'd like to hear what Dr. Kahn has to say about, patients with arrhythmias like AFib or some other stuff, as I am a little bit worried about those. I'd probably want them to be under the care of a cardiologist if they have something like that, but I'd be curious what Dr. Kahn says about that.
Yeah, we're all root cause doctors. I was just typing some crazy comments in the chat for fun. We're root cause doctors, and a lot of atrial fib is obesity related, and sleep apnea from obesity and hypertension from obesity. And what's the root cause of obesity? Hyperprocessed food and food addictions. And biotoxins and, maybe, endocrine and metabolic issues, endocrine issues. So I don't hesitate if I have an AFibber that wants to, would benefit from shedding some pounds. Prolon's a great program. Now, with the trial that was published last year, the SELECT trial of GLP-1 agonists like Wegovy and cardiac patients, we can combine them. I mean, they don't have to be exclusive. People that are going on those meds needs an exit strategy. And like I said, getting a regular Prolon program would be a great strategy. So I'll combine them all in a single patient. I get asked sometimes, and Dr. Sue, you can correct me. I think there's about 1,800 milligrams of sodium in the Prolon program. And, I have some heart failure patients that would benefit tremendously by getting metabolically healthy, gaining some insight on their food addictions, learning to eat plant-based. And, I watch them a little bit. I've never had anybody deteriorate in 5 days because, they might be following a 1,200 milligram a day sodium diet, and now it's 1,800. I get asked that a lot. I've never seen any harm from it, but, it's pretty much cardiac patients are good candidates, if they're very underweight or if they're brittle type 1 diabetics, I'm certainly not going to do it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think what's interesting is that you both mentioned patients that are on medications do raise a flag. And I think this is a really good opportunity for me to pass this to Dr. Shu to talk about some of the new programs that are in place that offer fasting mimicking with some additional support for those looking for medication management and support. So Dr. Shu, please take it away.
Yeah. So I know that inevitably there are physicians in the audience, and so I wanted to speak to you first. I mean, we do wanted to partner with you to provide the right care for people who wanted to get on FMD, and so we can connect separately on that. That there's a program just to help you. We will become your nutrition partner. You will still manage the laboratory. You will manage the medications, and certainly, I mean, it's going to work. That's why diabetes medication might come off and blood pressure medicine might come off. But we want to partner with you. We don't want to leave our customers just on their own to manage these medications. So that's one point. But for those, the majority of you who are not medical professional, FMD works, right? It works if you have type 2 diabetes. It works if you have a hypertension, you have dyslipidemia. And so we have, in order to really drive safety, we have put together a comprehensive program. Prolon well. That's our marketplace. That's where you can purchase and you can kind of DIY yourself for health, wellness, for longevity. But if you're using the FMD to drive a remission, to reverse a health condition, I would encourage you to check out l-nutrahealth.com, right? L-Nutra Health. That's a brand new program we put together where I mentioned earlier that we have a very unique FMD, but on top of that, it is a program. By that, I mean, there are healthcare providers, including physicians and dietitians, registered dietitians, that will basically partner with you. It's a membership program. Either it's a 6-month program or 12-month program, depending on your unique health conditions, and all to drive a better health outcome, a better cardiometabolic health outcomes under supervision. I believe one of the key sort of purpose for us is really to improve your health while do no harm. And that's why having a team of clinicians to support you still with the trusted FMD as the core technology, I think you get the best of both worlds. So L-Nutra Health, that's the name of the program. Just at .com, that's where you can find out all the information about these physician supervised RD coached programs that involve the FMD, also involve the 25 days. We deploy what's called longevity diet. That's also a brainchild of Professor Walter Longo. That's a modified Mediterranean pescatarian kind of a variety to it, so that you will always have somebody to support you. We have a community of members that support one another and so on and so forth. So it's definitely a step up from a DIY program.
Beautiful. Fantastic. And we see that in the chat, that link has been shared. So you guys are welcome to take a peek there, and it'll link you right to where you need to be to get more information about those programs. So I want to jump back into the Q&A and look at a couple of the questions that have been coming in. Dr. Kahn, your announcement of lipo-a has certainly raised a lot of excitement and questions around that, and especially just methods that you are aware of that might support a healthier level of lipo-a. So do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, so lipoprotein(a) is a genetic cholesterol. Everybody makes LDL cholesterol in the liver. 20 to 25% of people make a second cholesterol called lipoprotein(a). Totally dependent on what mom and dad gave you on chromosome 6. It doesn't seem to be affected much by diet and by exercise. It's completely unaffected by statin medication. And it can cause plaque, and it can cause clots, and it can cause something in the heart called aortic stenosis. And it's present in 20 to 25% of people. So we're talking about 1.5 billion people in the world. Many heart attacks, many deaths, many valve replacements are due to a genetic cholesterol that maybe 5 to 10% of doctors are checking. But that number is rapidly ramping up because 3 drug companies, since statins and no prescription medicine really address lipoprotein(a) elevation and bring it down. Novartis, Amgen, and Lilly all have major billion-dollar drug studies. One will be out May of 25, one will be out 26, and one will be out in 2029. So my practice has been entering a lot of people into it. But half the people get placebo, and they're not supposed to know, but they all cheat. There is a report this week from Dr. Alan Goldhammer, who runs the True North water fasting clinic, that after 6 weeks, 10 days of water fasting and 45 days of plant-based diet, somebody dropped their lipoprotein(a) about 40%. I think it's a bogus report because I think they took them off their statin, and that would greatly impact the results, but I don't know that for sure. We don't have any Prolon data on lipoprotein(a), but if you can't improve the lipoprotein(a) genetic cholesterol, but you use Prolon to improve your hemoglobin A1C and your high sensitivity C-reactive protein and your waistline and the way you might eat the other 25 days because you're just more mindful and more empowered, you're going to help your overall health, even if you can't help one feature of it. So it's not that we don't know that Prolon impacts lipoprotein(a). I've never seen any data on it. Now, probably there's stored blood from the 2017 trial that could be analyzed, but that's up to your research. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's such a hot topic right now. It might be worth doing.
Mm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good suggestion.
So Robert asks, and this one I'll send to you, Dr. Shu. When you speak of 6-month and 12-month programs, does this include fasting mimicking diets every single month?
Yeah, it really depends, right? So we will tailor that to you. Let's say if the goal is metabolic health, we will look at your profiles before and after and determine how long you should run the program for. So everybody has a different different needs. Typically in the 6 months program, we have a 4 monthly FMD. In a 12-month program, and the 12-month program is for people with type 2 diabetes. That typically is 6 monthly, and then every 2-3 months we'll have 1 cycle. But some people require less than 6 monthly cycles. Some people require more than 6 monthly cycles. It's up to your dietitian and your program physician to determine that length. But we are all there for you, and we will make sure that the personalization is key.
Fantastic. All right, Dr. Marbas, this one's coming your way. So what should people do in between fasting mimicking diet cycles to maintain heart health over the long term?
Sure. I think Dr. Shu mentioned the longevity diet. Of course, that's very plant-based driven. It's nutrient rich, right? So your high intake of vegetables, your fruits, your whole grains, legumes. Of course, this is ideal. I know people struggle to be the same diet, but those would be very, very helpful in continuing what has already started with the Prolon. The other piece is you're having that low animal protein and refined sugar that really can help lower things like IGF-1 and other things like that. And then you're getting healthy fats. I think some folks tend to be fat phobic, but we really should embrace nuts and seeds. There's, I think, olive oil as well that, that can be very beneficial, but people are very, very worried about that. But these are high in unsaturated fats, which really support heart health by reducing your LDL cholesterol and inflammation. So there's that piece, and then there's that quarterly cycle, right? So that's, once every 3 or 4 months that they found that obviously can help continue to reduce your body weight, the blood pressure, your cholesterol, your inflammatory markers. So, just kind of continue that promotion of regeneration as well. So I would say, like Dr. Kahn says, he does it every, 3 times a year or so. That's a fabulous way to proceed. And then hopefully you're getting that nidus to start other lifestyle factors, right? Regular exercise, you're mindful eating, you're becoming more in tune with hunger, what that actually feels like. Because so many people are just constantly eating, they don't even understand what true hunger is. So there's those really wonderful things that are going to be occurring if you continue to engage with the program. Absolutely.
Beautiful. So we got a lot of questions, actually. Rohit, Dvora, I have a couple of questions coming in about the use of other products like the fasting shakes, fasting bars, protein, and how you guys are incorporating those outside of the 5-day program. So I don't know, whoever wants to jump in on this one. Dr. Kahn, you look like you're ready to go.
I will say, the uptick in my practice of the fasting bar and the fasting shake were steady, and people appreciate them. And of course, the philosophy is I don't want to eat breakfast to keep my glucose down and my insulin down and my IGF-1 down, but I'm hungry, so you can have a fasting shake or a fasting bar, and it doesn't break your ketosis. If you're probably not in ketosis just overnight, but it's a breakfast substitute to prolong your fast to lunchtime. But it's a very low protein product because that's kind of the key to one aspect of the Prolon diet, the fasting mimicking diet. The uptake of the L protein powder, the new product, maybe about 4 months ago, chocolate and berry, has been cataclysmic. I mean, partly there is this mania, that protein, and everybody's eating chicken and tilapia fish because their trainer says you're going to die if you don't eat more animal protein. And, we re-educate them. This is the best option, if you're want to add in some super high quality patented tasty protein. So even in my own life, a couple days a week, I'll get that NutriBullet out and throw my flax seeds in my berries. Yeah, maybe a little spinach, usually that, but just throw a packet of L protein in. And the feedback's been tremendous. I like it. The patients like the flavor. So they're very different. One is protein augmentation and one is prolongation of your kind of overnight not eating. And mix them up, do them both, do them all. Just don't do them the same day necessarily. That wouldn't make sense.
Fantastic. Dr. Shu, did you want to add anything? I know that you're leveraging some of those products as well in between months with your programs as well.
I think for individuals that really wanted to lose a little bit more weight, although, for us, weight loss is actually a beneficial side effect of fasting mimicking diet. I mean, it's truly everything that's driving longevity and driving disease remission. Many of them are independent of the weight loss effect. Okay, it is really through the cellular rejuvenation effect. That being said, many people want to lose more weight, and they ask, in addition to the 5 days, what can I do for the rest of the 25 days? And this is where we have a product called Reset, right, that mimics the fasting for entire 24 hours. We have a fast bar of fast shake that mimics the fasting physiology for one meal. You see, now you could be creative now, right? So now after FMD, certainly you don't want to do them at the same time, but after the FMD and after refeeding for a couple of days, these tools now are additional, right? They can help to drive additional benefits from intermittent fasting. So that's I think it's worth mentioning. I also wanted to have a special mention on the all protein. I think that it's really in in a society where everybody wants protein, just remember that anytime when you give the body a very high signal for growth, like protein powders, you're going to accelerate aging pathways, right? It's not difficult to imagine, for example, if you accelerate on your car, something gives, right? That is the tread on your tires. They're going to be worn out a little bit faster. When you give lots of protein throughout your life, that means you're going to accelerate the aging pathways. Now, it took us a couple of years actually from at the USC lab, and then we certainly contributed to a lot of the thinking around this. Is can you come up with, just like fasting mimicking diet? Can you take the can you drive the benefit of protein powders or protein supplementations without the negative aspect of it? In other words, can you support muscle strength, integrity, while not driving these pro-aging pathways, right? While not accelerate aging. This is where the genius came in, right? So the thought around this with Walter Longo was, let's make it plant-based. Let's make sure that there is specific amino acid composition here, not just always plant-based, but do we know specific combinations of amino acids that will allow the support of muscle without accelerate aging? Boom, the end result is the L protein. So go check it out, L-protein on our website.
Fantastic. Now, I know we're running very low on time. We'll take a couple more questions, but I just wanted to let everybody know that even if we didn't get to your question, we will be sharing in the chat our customer service email, where you can go ahead and send any questions that maybe were outstanding that you didn't get answered live. And our team of nutrition professionals will be happy to answer those. So every question that comes through our customer team is reviewed by nutrition professionals to make sure we give you the best answers. So let's answer a last few couple of questions. We did get a lot of questions asking about personalized medical questions, which we have to be very careful about how to answer. But I will mention, maybe Dr. Shu, if you want to touch on this, we had questions about SVT, AFib, 70% blockage in arterial arteries,
No.
proximal AFib. So, there's a lot of those types of questions.
Yeah.
So maybe if you want to just touch on how we can support these people.
Yeah, in general, if you have these conditions, I would say talk to your doctor. Don't do this on your own. If your doctors don't know much about the FMD, the fasting mimicking diet, come to the L-Nutra Health program. We have physicians that will go through the evaluation. Again, I think while there are many benefits to FMD, just remember it is low calorie, right? It does bring some stress to the body. You want to make sure that your health is ready for that kind of challenge. And I think your doctor is going to know the best, and together with your input, obviously, or else we also have a team of physicians that will do that evaluation even before you enroll into the program as we practice responsible medicine.
Fantastic. And Dr. Kahn, one more time, would you repeat those 3 tests? We had a lot of people who wanted to hear them again.
Yeah, I did put it in the chat, but high sensitivity C-reactive protein, LDL cholesterol, and lipoprotein little a. And then the other 10 you should get too, but that's a different lecture.
Beautiful. And Dr. Marbas and Dr. Kahn, I'd love to hear just how you would recommend that individuals who maybe their doctors aren't familiar with fasting mimicking diets, what would you recommend they share with their physicians looking to partake?
Go ahead, Laurie.
I was just going to say the website, right? Well, right there in general should give them moving in the right direction. But yeah, absolutely. But Dr. Kahn, what are you going to say? Sorry.
2 things, tell your doctor to go to what's called PubMed, National Library of Medicine, put in Walter Longo or put in fasting mimicking diet. You'll be blown away by how much science, or read Dr. Longo's book, The Longevity Diet. And I know we've been teased, there's a new book that's supposed to come out very soon. I've been unable to steal a copy from anybody, but the longevity diet, it's in my office. I really hand those out very readily to patients and tell them to share them with their doctor. It's a great book.
Fantastic. And not to mention now with the advent of sexual health programs. We have physicians on hand ready to answer a lot of those questions and review, run the lab tests, do the work. So Dr. Shu, did you want to add anything there?
No, I think, it may be confusing for our listener. How come you have Prolong? How come you have Dash Neutral Health or L Neutral Health? Just remember that for health and wellness and longevity, you can do it yourself. Prolong is right there for you. All the products underneath the Prolong line, the shakes, the fasting bar, they're all there to support you there. But as soon as you're thinking about using this technology for a disease, we would like you to be under the care of your physician. That's one. We're happy to talk to them. And Dr. Kahn already told you, some of the stuff you can share with your physician, or you can come and seek out our care model, which is L Neutral Health.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all for your time, everyone who joined. And thank you to Dr. Shu, to Dr. Marbas, and Dr. Kahn for the incredible insight that they shared. I'd love to just close it out by letting each of you just say some final words. If Dr. Marbas, you'd like to say anything here.
No, just thank you for having me. It was a joy speaking to you and always learning. I've made some notes also about the new studies coming out. So no, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Dr. Kahn, anything to close out?
The fastest path to health is fasting. So go do it.
Perfect. Dr. Shu, close us out and we'll call it a day.
My heart goes out to those who wanted to take health into their own hands. This is going to empower you. Whether you're seeking health and longevity or if you're seeking disease reversal, we're here for you. Take the first step.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you all. We wish you all a phenomenal day. Thank you for your time. And we will see you again in a few short weeks. We have a webinar with Dr. Walter Longo that we are promoting coming up next. And we will be doing these monthly moving forward. So thank you again for your time and we will see you soon.